Welcome to Top Rated Gym Podcast for the gym owners aiming to take their business to the next level. I'm your host, Andre, and I'm interviewing top performance, best rated, highest revenue, fastest growing gyms in the world, regardless if they have a single location or empire of thousands. If you own a gym and looking for ideas how to get more leads, increase conversion, grow your membership base, or facing troubles with customer retention, maybe your employees, or operational challenges, this is your podcast. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. I am really excited about having Nick Palladino-King today on the call. Nick, for everybody who's listening, Nick is CEO and co-founder of Tribe Fitness. It's premier fitness and yoga studio in San Francisco. He is the one who holds the title of top 5% earners in the gym industry as a studio. And he's also co-host of Conscious Conversations podcast. Mm-hmm. So 15 years of experience, guys, training and teaching movement, breath work, meditation, coaching, and my favorite one is entrepreneurship. Nick, welcome to the call.
Hey, thanks, Andre. That's one of the best intros I think I've gotten to date. Appreciate it.
Listen, it's all true, my friend. Nick, I would love audience to get to know you from your own side. In a couple minutes, if you can share your story. Like, who is Nick and what is Tribe Fitness? How everything came to life.
Yeah, sure. 15 years and 15 minutes, right? I would say what's really important that I always like to express, and especially since we're talking through the lens of entrepreneurship and wellness, is I never planned on being in the position that I'm in right now. I planned on being a corporate CEO and a corporate executive. That was my vision as a very young man. And that's what I wanted and what I was on the path to create. And I found myself in my mid-20s being very unhappy, stressed, unable to manage my own health, my own wellness as a result of living and working in the corporate world. And you've been in that space and it's a monster, it's a beast. So I found myself getting very unwell. And that's actually how I got into yoga and meditation and movement, was actually as a way to really manage my own stress and manage my own unhappiness and issues. So with that, after a couple of years of practicing yoga, I started to ask myself, who do I want to be in the world? And maybe more importantly, how do I want to be in the world and what do I want to do? And my heart really started to get loud and started to say, this isn't the path for me. This isn't the way I want to be. I was not a nice person. When I was in my mid-20s in the corporate world, I was taught to be very tough, and that was what was expected at the company I worked with. Long story short, I was walking home from a bar and from a company party at like 2 a.m. in Newport Beach, California, wearing a suit and looking nice. And I was mugged and jumped by three men at 2 a.m. in the morning, and literally got in a fight for my life to save my life. The three guys robbed me. Took my money, my wallet, my phone, and luckily I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6", 230 pounds, and I was able to fight them off and protect myself. But I woke up. The reason this is important is I woke up the next day and I asked myself. I said, if I would have died, would my life have been worth it? That was the question that somehow 25-year-old Nick knew to ask. And the answer was a resounding no. It was the clearest no I think I've ever gotten in my life. Was no. My life wouldn't have been worth it. So shortly after that, I quit my corporate job and traveled the world for 3 years and got into studying yoga. And I lived in Asia and I really learned about myself. And I came back in my late 20s and said, okay, now what the hell do I do? I have no career. I have no money. I have no path. And that's when I decided to start teaching what I had learned about self-care and wellness.
Job's story. He went to India and
really
spent months there and came back like, what do I do?
I lived in Thailand and Korea and Mexico. And it was this question of, what do I do now? I kind of blew up my life. And it got really clear that I wanted to teach people a lot of the skills I had learned, but how to apply them to living in San Francisco, living in LA, living in a city, but also creating wellness. And that's really became like the ethos for what I've started to teach. And eventually what became Tribe, which is a health and fitness company really designed for, I'd say, working professionals who want to find balance in community and want something unique and tailored and really in line with who they are. So that's kind of the long story there in a short way. But yeah.
Man, so If that event didn't happen, if you didn't
Yeah.
get robbed and mugged and scared,
Mhm.
would you make other decisions in your life?
I
Was
don't
that a
think I
gift
would
or
have.
was that a curse? Was that
I don't
something that
think I
tipped it
would
off?
have. Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry to cut you off. I don't think I would have left that path. I think I uniquely needed something that intense to pull me out of it.
Mm,
And the second piece is I look back now 15 years later, and if I met those men,
mm,
I would give them a hug. I would thank them. I would thank them for saving my life.
yeah.
I believe it was divine intervention that was like this is what Nick
Mm.
needed to shift his path. So yeah, that's taken a lot of work and a lot of time, but I would look back and say that's probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
And I wanna, man, I'm getting goosebumps here. I'm
Me
just
too.
thinking on that moment, like if you are creator to yourself, you can call it
Mm-hmm.
universe, God, whatever it's in your world,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about yourself, little Nick, it's on the planet down below, lost in his way,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta do something to shake his ass. And if I have to beat his ass,
Yeah.
scare him, get his heart rate to the impossible, put adrenaline so he can say, damn, never again.
Mm-hmm.
Moment in life, the decisions are made
Mm-hmm.
and destiny is created,
Yeah.
right? You can go back and say, oh, thank you for that. It wasn't pleasant at that moment. You were
No.
scared for life. It was moment that says, why me? What the heck? Like you were blaming everybody and anybody from the politics to the streets to the crime to the name it probably at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But we
absolutely.
don't know until 10 years, 15 years later, you find like, oh my God, whoa. I just want this to resonate with the audience to say, hey, if you have some shit happening in your life right now, maybe 15 years from now, you'll say thank you
Mm-hmm.
and look for the signs. Maybe this is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and it's the question of instead of why did this happen to me, why did this happen for me? And if you can get to
Yes.
that place, and especially through the lens of entrepreneurship, I found myself this week complaining and being the victim within my business. And I caught myself and I'm like, that doesn't win games and that doesn't change lives. And so I told my team, I said, my intention this week is to be resilient
Mm,
because life gets tough, things get
mm,
challenging. And instead of being the victim of why is it happening to me, it's stepping
mm,
into the seat of an empowered person saying, why is this happening for me? And then actually the bigger
mm,
lens, Andre, is really why am I creating this for myself? Which is a
mm.
more universal lens for sure. And that's a whole different game. And but that's where I try to operate from daily. And I can tell you do too.
Oh man, this is and this is something that's happening in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Even Steve Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dots, points, events in our life that totally make sense later on in the future. And that's every time I see something happening to me or my business or my relationships or anything around. I was like, okay, what are I supposed to learn? Let's get clear here. My company get hacked and we start seeing some damage and it was like, hold on, the whole team is panicking for a second. And I came on a meeting so happy and comfortable. And they're all like, whoa, what are you going to do? Like, okay, let's ask one question. What's
Mm-hmm.
good about this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing is good about this. Like, no, 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 I know. But we'll continue conversation after we list three things that's good about us.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they start showing everything that's good about it, like, oh, well, we didn't know this can be a threat. We didn't know this can happen. We didn't know this like totally bulletproof system that nothing happened. And the damage
Yeah.
it was just a scary stuff, right? Like, that's what I'm thinking about it. People, you have things that's happening for reason and purpose, and it serves you. Every challenge is just yet another opportunity to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
Use it as a sign, as a signal, and building resilience. At least fitness world knows that without weight, muscles don't get bigger, right?
Yeah. Without stress, we don't grow.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God, man, this is inspiring. So I want to see, you know, uh, 15 years pass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fly into the future. It's 10 years from now, 2034. What how does your life look like? What's version of Tribe Fitness or Nick
Mm-hmm.
10 years from now? What's the goal?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's interesting because I work with a 3 year vision a lot of times where I actually write myself notes from the future and I report back to myself of what I've created. And the last one I wrote, literally almost to the word, I created in business, where I'm living, relationship. And it was like, this stuff's really powerful. So for 15 years, for Tribe, I envision Tribe being sold by then. I envision us opening 10 locations by then and then selling. That's really where I see that moving towards. And getting to that space is such a different stratosphere and such a different game and such a different skill set that I need to learn and bring in. But that's really where I see the long-term vision of Tribe
Mm,
itself going to is becoming a regional player that's having over 10 million, even more in revenue, maybe probably even more at that point, and selling and then using that as a platform really as a way to shift into moving myself more into thought leadership in the wellness space and being on stages and
mm,
spending the majority of my time actually having conversations like this
mm,
that help other people unlock themselves to create more impact
mm.
in the world. So I think I see Tribe personally as it's part of what I do currently, but it's also as a stepping stone into a next space, into a next kind of
Sure.
realm of success and self-knowledge.
That's clarity is power, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you ask many of the people, what is the purpose of business? Right? You will get 100 questions, 100 answers from 100 people. But one is common for all the business owners. It's a revenue.
Mm-hmm.
It's money. Right. And your future. 10 years from now, 10 million, you sell it, you put it on an annuity for 7% a month, you're claiming $700,000 a year. Not a bad lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
For life. Revenue for life. Passive income. Turn it into investment, separate it around 13 different non-correlated assets, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But exit in mind. You know how many business owners don't have exit strategy?
I
Now, if you're
I
listening to
mean,
this, what is your exit strategy? You have clear, like 10 years, 10 million, boom, let's make it happen.
yeah. I mean, how
Right.
many business owners don't even have clarity on what to do today? Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Or where they're going, or where the constraints in their business are, or where they need to be spending their time and energy rather than working in the business. I mean, I think it's that almost is a harder question of like, what should I be doing now? What
Yes.
is the top thing that I should be doing as the business owner to move my company forward? And I think a
Mm,
lot of us entrepreneurs are wasting our time by doing busy work rather than the one thing that's going to move the business forward either today or
yes.
this month or this year. And it's like, what lever? I love Alex Hormozy. He says like small hinges swing big doors. And it's like, that one's great. What's the one
Yes.
decision I make today that has a massive pull and shift? And if you can do that, then you can really start to think about that future because it's like, but now I can just reverse engineer that $10 million number. I
Correct.
know where we are and I know what we need to do to get there.
You already know how to run one. You just need to scale it now multiple times in the same fashion. And if you don't know where you're going, guys, listen, it's always like if you want to be a president and you want to go after that, you might never become one, but your progress in career will be way better than just aiming for no title at all. If
Mm-hmm.
you aim high, you will look on opportunities differently, attract different people, investors. If Nick comes in a conversation with investors, says, this is what I want, this is what I sell, investors are more likely to say, hey, let's talk about it, instead of just saying, oh, another local gym guy who
Mm-hmm.
has a good lifestyle.
Yeah,
But
for
that
sure.
that brings me on it, like, why, man? What gives you that hunger and drive? I mean, you're already 15 years in the business. Aren't you tired? Like, where you get that
Mm.
desire now to go to the next, like, 10x that?
What's wild is the hair on my arm just stood up when you said that. And it's a heck of an answer. It's a heck of a question because I've been around other mentors who at age 40, which is right where I am, burned out. And
Yes.
and the fitness space, the wellness space can be tough because you're dealing with people's emotions, right? That today they're in, tomorrow they're out, which can be really tough. So there's got to be a sense of like detachment that I'm learning myself of really caring, but not letting that affect me, which is compassion. That's part of it. The other thing is, man, it's in my DNA to serve people and help and grow. And it's actually interesting. I was talking to the CEO of Gym Launch yesterday, and I told him, he said, what's your major constraint? And I said, Kale, I don't feel like my business is growing fast enough. We're short about 50% of new members every month. And he was like, well, are you net positive every month in terms of your growth? And I said, yeah. And it was such this cool thing of like, he's looking at me like, if you're net positive, then what's the issue, Nick? Right. And I said, because this isn't what I want. What I want us to do is double the amount we're selling so we can hire more staff, open more locations, create more wealth for myself and my business partners. And it's like those things really matter. Like for me, this took me a long time to get to. The more money
Mm,
we make means the more people we serve.
mm,
And then it's like money isn't this bad thing. It's actually the lifeblood of the business. It's the lifeblood of my lifestyle and happiness to a large extent, the ability to bring on staff members and teammates who can
mm,
push things forward and then to expand to serve more people and change more lives. And it's like, so then to me, I guess that all works together. Right.
mm,
And it's not this thing of like, oh God, I got to pull myself to go to work. It's like I have this mission behind me, which is to go out
mm,
there and transform lives, which pushes me out of bed. And
mm.
that really, I find on the days when I don't want to do it, that's when I need to call in my spotter, which is my mission, right? Which is my purpose in life. And that guy just goes,
That
get out of
pulls
bed,
you.
man. And I think that's part of it. You got to really be clear on what you're doing and why. What's your deep why? Because
Mm.
if it's just money, go get a corporate job. I mean, for real, go, if it's just money, go get a corporate job. But if you're in the health and fitness space, like you better care and you better want to change people's lives or else it's
Mm.
not going to be fun. At least in my experience, it
Yeah.
can drain you. So I think you need that combination of passion, purpose, and then creating prosperity as a
Mm.
result of those three.
And if I can summarize this,
Yeah.
looking, listening from a different angle here, what you're saying is, comparing you who is excited, pumped, ready to go, like you're just starting, even after 15 years, like boom, this is it, with somebody totally opposite who is depressed on pills and other
Mm-hmm.
things. One thing you will see a difference is how people, where their mind is focused on. So a lot of depressed people are focused on themselves. Why didn't I get this? Me, my problem, my life, my all issues. While people who are optimistic, driven, energized, they are future looking,
Mm-hmm.
like you just says, I look at myself and pull me out, we go. When I says go, we go. And they focus on others. How can I help more people?
Mm-hmm.
The moment you focus on somebody else, not of yourself, the energy changes. And you're a real example. You didn't say it in these words, but this is exactly what you demonstrated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whoa, man. Listen, everybody's now thinking like easy for Nick,
Yeah, sure.
right? Super cool. Good for you, buddy. But I have my shit going on every day.
Yeah.
So I want to switch the topic and talk about, listen, you had some challenges in last 15 years. Ignoring the one that was a trigger event.
Mm-hmm.
But what was one of the most challenging times when was the business on make it or break it, or something you struggled to solve, and then I want to see what you learn from that.
Yeah, there's two that come to mind. One was when I came back to the United States in my late 20s
Mm,
and I had burned all my bridges in my life. I had no money. I was
mm,
living on my parents' couch. I didn't have enough money to buy myself lunch. I mean, I had to the point when I was dead broke.
mm,
And I needed to hit kind of a rock bottom at that point to really propel myself upward. So I had some moments of depression, of suicidal thoughts, of being alone, of being really lost. So
mm,
those moments all kind of made me more resilient, right? To
mm,
push forward. But I would say the hardest thing that I've gone through to date would be COVID. I mean, we went from in
mm.
2020,
Oh, especially
we
San Francisco. Oof.
yeah, I mean, don't get me started on that. I mean, we had been open 2 years, and mind you, I'd been building this business on my own for about 5 to 7 years prior. So when I started this company Tribe with my brother, we had hit the ground running. Within the first year, I think we did 200,000. The second year we did about 300, 350. And then we're going, okay, this year we're going to do 600, 700,000 in 2020. We were looking at new locations. We almost signed a lease on a second space. And overnight, we lost half of our business.
Mm,
We went from being profitable to barely being able to get by. Some of the reasons that we made it through COVID is one, I had been doing virtual coaching already for years with private clients. So I knew how to shift us
mm,
into virtual, which we made happen overnight. That saved half of the business. Our landlord didn't charge us rent for a year. I had to have a really big conversation with him and say, hey, look, either I pay you or I pay my staff. I can't do both. And my landlord bless him, said, you know what? We're going to get through this together. And he's a guy with vision. He's a guy with a lot of future focus. And he said, we're going to get through this together. We're on a team. So he didn't charge us rent for a year. And that saved us. But then 2022 comes along, and in San Francisco, one week they would say you could open. The next week they would say you were closed. One week it was you could have people at 25% with a mask on. The next week it was closed. So we found ourselves really being victims of this isn't fair. We didn't do anything wrong. And at the end of the day, about 2 years ago, almost to the date, I had to have a come to Jesus moment with my partner, who's also my brother, my business partner. And I said to him, look, man, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't continue to be in the middle where Tribe is stuck, where it's not growing. At that point, we were paying ourselves about $5,000 a month. And I was like, I'm watching my friends who are in tech, who are in corporate, making 200, 300,000. And I'm going, I'm smarter than these guys. Like, yeah. And I actually started putting my resume out there, which is, as an entrepreneur, you kind of hit rock bottom when you start looking for a corporate job as a serial entrepreneur. And I was to that point. I said, I can't do this. Yeah. I can't do this anymore. I can't be stuck either. I said to him, I said, Tribe's either got to grow or it's got to die. And I was like, and I don't care because it's affecting my life. It's affecting my marriage. It was affecting our relationship. I was extremely unhappy. I was about ready to blow up my whole life, honestly. And that moment of, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to give up, which is fine, or are we going to go all in? And are we going to really take control of what we can take control of? And we decided to go with the latter and say, okay, we're going to go all in. We're going to use every last penny we have, and we're going to make this happen. And as a result, we actually hired Jim Launch, who I think you're familiar with, as our business coach.
Yeah.
And in the 2 years since we've been with Jim Launch, we now create more profit every month than we were doing top line revenue when we hired them.
Wow.
I mean, if you're listening to that, we're taking home more money now into our pockets than we were making total revenue in 2022. So fast forward 2 years, and we've almost tripled our business from deciding we're either going to grow or die, and two, finding people who knew what to do more than we did, how to get us from 6 figures to 7 figures, and then going all in and saying, we're going to do whatever it takes. So we were at the edge, man. And I was just look back and think that I was looking for a corporate job. I know no one here knows me as they're listening, but that to me is a sign that I was at rock bottom personally, because I pretty much was about to give up. It was not fun. It was not a fun time, but now it is. And now it's vibrant. And we're thriving because of these inflection points and these choices.
These rock bottoms consistently comes and goes, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to Elon Musk.
Yep.
Multiple times on the rock bottom. It happens to actors. When you ask Will Smith, he said, if me and you comes on a treadmill, compete who's going to run longer, there's only 2 things can happen. Either I win or I die. Like, will you compete with him? When there's absolutely going to the last ounce of energy to the death. And that mindset created him as who he is. I love the story. I don't know. Do you know the story about FedEx? And so FedEx was crazy company, overnight shipping. Nobody ever did that. He was laughed at university when he would propose the idea as a student. He burned all investors' money. He started something that's impossible. Overnight shipping in a world that never been done before until somebody does it. Everybody calls it crazy until somebody does it. And then they were on the last penny. So maybe I'll exaggerate the story, but the story was, I have all this money. Let me go to casino, put it all on red, and give us extension. He did. He put all the money. He got double. He went back. Don't recommend doing this. But then they run money again. So now they're literally on the last days of the money. They're about to shut down, and they're talking to everybody. It says, let's close this out. Unfortunately, guys, they were right. And call came in. It says, I have emergency. I heard you're the only company who can help me. My wedding dress is not being delivered on time. And if I don't get wedding dress, I cannot get married.
Mm-hmm.
And the CEO heard the story, and it makes me emotional every time I say the story. So the story, guys, let's charter the jet. It cost us, I don't know, $70,000, $80,000 to do this. This is the last penny we have on the bank. Let's go pick up that dress and let's deliver it. If you go down, let's go down as a champs. One last delivery. So they did. They went to pick up the dress. They delivered it. What they didn't know, it was one of the most famous Hollywood actors'
Mm,
wedding. They delivered it, and all the other actors were there talking about a company who did impossible
mm,
and was talking about the conversation. That was their rock bottom that lifted them up, and FedEx is today who the FedEx is. So, Elon Musk was selling company to Google for $5 billion. Model 3 is not picking up, and they're on the urgent bankruptcy. And he wrote last email to employees, says, guys, we got to sell it. He turned every single employee into a salesperson,
mm.
says, your job today, you're fired from your role, and today you're a salesperson. Go call your uncles, brothers, mothers, sisters, neighbors, hair salons, hairstylists, sell Tesla.
Hmm.
They had 150,000 sales in that month, and they pulled out from the sale. So every company, guys, if you think you're alone, everyone has these challenges, rock bottoms that tested you. Even Elon Musk considers selling it. So if you're considering finding a job and going somewhere, it's not alone. You're not alone. This happens over and over to the best of the best. Man, that's such an
That's
inspiring story,
that's
bro.
good to hear. That's good to hear. It's like good, like there's we're not the only one. I think sometimes it feels like we can be the only ones going through these things. And it's really important to hear other people's stories of how they made it through. And it's different, but also it's relevant, right? You can pull something from that of like, man, that what an incredible story. What an incredible moment. What a chance. What a
What a
almost
chance.
impossible.
Yeah. And what I like what you says is we have a choice to make. Either we give it up, let it die, or
Mm-hmm.
we go all in. I
Yeah.
love teaching that I says, and that applies even in relationships, in anything. A lot of people complain, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, really? Did you do everything? Yeah, I tried everything. So one more story about this. Tony Robbins on his conference, when people complain about, yeah, I tried everything. The moment you use word try, outcome is failed.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Nice.
irrelevant word. He asked persons, can you try to move this chair? And the person came and moved the chair. I was like, no, no, no. I didn't ask you to move it. I want to ask you to try to move it. It's confusing. Again, pushed it and move it. It's like, no, I didn't ask you to move it. I want to ask you to try to move it. And I want you to keep trying. Because if you move it, you says, I moved it. I didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
Says every time you have challenge, commit 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever days, says, I'm all in. I'm going to be the best husband. I'm going to be the best spouse. I'm going to be the best person. I'm the one who's going to isolate myself as being wrong. I'm going to do everything that takes. And if I fail, I know I did it. I put it all out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fool myself by saying I tried. There's so many inspiring stories like that, but it is something that's happened to everybody who's successful. There's no shortcut. There's absolutely
Oh,
no shortcut. Man, I want to talk now about a couple of things that people can take from you. Your growth from starting from nothing, from you're not sponsored by the rich dad who says, oh, here's take over my gym, or you
mm.
started from even having experience, going from different world. But you have a gift of growing that revenue. So how would help somebody who's listening says, damn, I really want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many wrong ways to do it. You double it, you double it. One thing you already told us, you're not happy with somebody else's expectations. Somebody says you're not net positive. That means difference between new members you're getting and lost members you're getting is bigger than zero. So
Mm-hmm.
you're gaining new members every month. But let's talk about leads, sales
Yeah.
generation, conversion, retention, or even how to choose the right vendor. Probably you work with agencies who delivered nothing and they burned you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's such a good question, and there's so much of this knowledge needed in the fitness space. And I think, and for a lot of people, doctor, lawyer, chiropractor, like you don't get into these things to be an entrepreneur. You get into them to follow your passion. And then you find out quickly, like, oh shit, I'm also an entrepreneur. I need to generate clients and create a business. So a lot of us don't have that combination of skills of the tactile thing and the business thing. So first thing I would say is like it's not easy. Like there's a lot of There's a lot easier routes out there than the wellness space. But if you've got the passion for it, then like you've got the right start. So one is you got to really understand that, and this is a counterintuitive thing. I think at the end of the day, your product of training doesn't really matter that much. And I will say this in consults with people. I go, look, fitness is a commodity, right? They go,
Mm,
yeah, you can go on YouTube right now and get a workout for free. You can go find something
mm,
I've created for free. Well, why doesn't that work? You know, Bowflex, Nordic Track, Peloton, they've all been around for decades. Like it's not like home fitness is new, right?
mm,
Technology alone isn't the answer. It's technology and people. So what I'm getting at is you have to have a level of, yeah, your product has to be good, but your programming, your training, your videos, like they don't really matter at the end of the day. There's plenty of great trainers that have terrible businesses, right?
mm,
And everyone listening knows there's some really bad trainers out there who have
mm,
great businesses. Why? They care, they're personable, they run a good business,
mm,
right? So I'm not saying have a horrible product. What I'm saying is it's not as important as you think. What matters more is one, I think, is knowing your value of your brand, knowing your values. What do you stand for? But then there's buckets, right? You need to understand lead generation, marketing.
mm,
You need to understand lead nurture. So once I have someone interested in my product, how do I now get them to come into my space to talk to me? That's a really big game right there. Then you need to understand sales. Sales, it's really important to have a front end offer. Like, hey, here's the way to try us out. In the past, it's do 20 pack or do 100 pack or do a year commitment. And the person's like, I don't even know you. Can we date first? Can we get some coffee? So what we do is we run a 6-week program. Try us out.
mm,
If you like us, let us prove to you that we're great. Then we'll continue. So you need a front end sales offer. From there, then you got to work on your product and your service, right? And it's got to be really good. You got to care. You got to get people results. You got to be data driven. And then the back end, which this may be, they're all important, but this is the one that most gym owners have no idea about because they're not there yet. And you already said it, it's retention. So this is like
mm,
keeping the back door protected because what happens is, and I've been there, is you bring in one client, you lose a client. You bring in two clients, you lose a client. And you
yeah.
you create a revolving door of your business, which isn't sustainable, doesn't create net clients. And at the end of the day, that's what burns you out and drains you. So you've got to create this system of an inflow of new clients and members, but then also something on the back end which prevents them from leaving. So we actually have a retention manager at my company.
Mm,
It's a six-figure position almost at this point. So
mm,
my fitness manager, Giorgio, manages about 200 clients. And if they don't come to the gym for a week, Giorgio calls them, says, hey, Andre, where are you? Haven't seen you.
mm,
What's going on? No other gym that I know of does that. The business model is
mm,
pay up, but don't show up, kind of like a bank.
yep, yep.
We flipped it. Hey, if you're not here, you are our client. It's our responsibility to get you back in the door. And it's wild. When you show people you care, they stay longer, they refer their friends. Our LTV of our clients stay for about 20 months.
Oof.
20 months, if you're listening. And our churn
Wow.
rate, which is how many clients we lose per month, is less than 5%. The industry
Mm,
standard is anywhere from 10 to 20%. Okay.
yeah.
If you have, let's say you have 100 members and your churn rate is 10%, so you lose 10 members every month, right? That means in 10 months, you will have churned through your entire current membership base. You cannot grow a gym business if you're losing your entire membership base every 10 months, right? It is. So retention is golden. It's the key. You got to do things to get people excited, do member events, get them to stay, work with them if they go on vacation, know when they're on vacation, get them back in the gym. We write letters. I had a lady yesterday come up to me and jump on me and hug me. And I didn't know why. And I actually forgot. I felt kind of bad about it. But she had a friend pass away like a month ago. And myself included and our whole team wrote her a handwritten card and sent her a gift card to take care of herself. And she
Mm,
came up to me and she hugged me in the middle of the studio and was like, Nick, this is why I come here. You guys care about me so much. It's the only thing helping me get through this tough time. And I was like, wow, look at that. Like our team, myself included, is showing these people we care. So that example of retention, of caring, is what's going to make your business. I'm happy to go deeper into each one of those, but you've got marketing, lead nurture, sales, service, and then you have your retention, right? And then on the back end, you would have like finance and stuff, but in HR.
Wow. So you decided at one point of time says, I'm gonna hire this kind of person.
Yep.
And do you compensate that person based on performance or some kind of metrics?
Yep.
How, I mean, you're good with metrics, your revenue, your retention. Many of the people don't even have a clue about it.
So Giorgio has been with us for 5 or 6 years. He's the only employee that made it with us through the pandemic. And he's been hanging around, and I've been promising him for years. I was like, trust me, stay with us. We're gonna figure this out for how to get you to a full-time management position.
No.
And he trusted us, which and a lot of people wouldn't. And I actually suggested to him a couple of years ago that he leave and go get a job because we weren't paying him enough either. But as we've grown, and then Giorgio was ready, he said, okay, you're now going to be in the role of retention manager, right? So he does training, he does management, and then now he has a retention role. And how Giorgio gets paid on that, and this has been a game changer, is Giorgio owns 10% of our revenue growth. So not all of our revenue, but 10% of our revenue growth.
Nice.
As
Align.
long as churn is under 5%. So he is incentivized to keep our clients on board. So let's say Giorgio is supposed to get a $2,000 bonus. If churn is at 10% that month, Giorgio does not get a $2,000 bonus, which is probably how much he pays for his rent. So he's got ownership, he's got skin in the game. And what I love is what's starting to happen is my fitness manager last week was presenting a new program, and Giorgio goes, is this going to help retention or is this going to hurt retention? And I loved it. Right. And I was like, and they weren't arguing, but they were challenging each other because fitness wanted one thing and retention wanted the other thing. And in the middle, I go, guys, this is good. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're both bringing exactly what each department needs to be doing. But now you're understanding what each department needs to work together. And I was so proud of him of like him seeing that this might not be good for retention and then not wanting his income to be affected, but also not wanting the gym to be affected. And I was like, oh, we just touched a new place that we haven't been before and a new place that he hadn't been before. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, you could decide, let's go on a Groupon. Let's get low hanging fruits, those window shoppers who's going to come for a deal, boost up revenue for that month, take all your exercise, workout inventory, and churn like crazy.
And decrease the quality of our product.
Decrease the quality. Oh, and then he says, hold on. My ass is on fire here. Pause it. Yep. And this is where you have employees as a partners who are working with you, not just for you. If he was not incentivized to say, listen, part of my life, quality of life depends on my performance. And if I don't speak now, that part is gone. So it's a huge difference. And this is the only way, if you had his role, same job description, same role, same everything, but there's no performance rewards, he would not be allowed.
Yeah.
Now he participated in meetings like and I was looking forward that you will say that and it's like, boom.
And I've actually, and what we have this built in now with all our different positions. So my lead nurture staff, her job is to get our leads to show up into the gym. She gets $10 bonus every person that shows up into the gym, right? So she cares. Erica cares if people show up or not because it directly affects her business and our business. And then my fitness manager, same thing. He gets a bonus based off revenue growth of like our personal training and small group training. So all of our three main staff are all incentivized in different ways on top of their roles. And now we have owner operators almost without giving up equity. We have people that have skin in the game. And that's a really cool combination. So it's an unlock to get, because if you give them something, they will show up for you 10x.
And you retain them longer. They see career progress. They see the impact of what they says it works. Because otherwise, you'll just lose them. This is the A-player game, guys, where otherwise they build envy game, like easy for you. Sometimes they build even sabotage game, where they'll sabotage you. This is the culture you built that works even when you're not around, because it's in their best interest.
And now when we bring on a new staff or new employee, my core team is like, oh, this person better prove themselves to us, because they have such a high standard and expectation that they'll actually start kicking people out. And that's like, oh wow, you guys
Mm,
care more than I care actually when it comes to like who you're working with. And
correct.
that, I mean,
Even if you hire
what a
agency, or it's like, hey, I'm gonna filter them out. You can bring
Mhm.
people on, force it. You're the owner, but they're like, bad organ transplant. They'll just kick it out.
Mhm.
Like, sorry, but this doesn't work for all of us. Like, Nick, what are you doing?
Bad organ transplant. That's good. That's good. We don't want this virus in here. No, no, this thing's healthy.
And
This
they
body's
always
working.
say A players wants to work with A players.
Hmm.
You know, uh, every company. There's some comparison I heard from my chief operating officer, Boyan, who came into the company. He says, "There's cockroaches. There's the puppies. When you turn on the light, puppies comes close to you, like you're home. Cockroaches hide away. And light is like measuring. You're measuring everybody's performance. They're measuring their own performance because there's incentive for them. A
Hmm.
players like to be measured, and they like to be challenged, and they like to compete. You do this in every department, not one. You have to close the cycle. In marketing is always, people think it's a funnel. It's not a funnel. It's not something you put on top and somehow gravity pulls them on the bottom and suddenly they show up in the gym. No, it's a different beast
Hmm.
where it's a chain where you have so many connecting points and either works 100% or doesn't. One missing link and it's falling apart. It
Hmm.
does not work. Usually says what's the satisfaction ratio accessible or acceptable. Like 80% is good, 90%, 99%.
Hmm.
If you have 99% happiness of your customers in a business, you think it's good? No, it's 1% that you have to deal with all the problems that they're created by 1%. One link in the chain that doesn't work, everything falls apart.
Hmm.
It can be anywhere in the chain. So that's
Yeah.
why I love what it says is, hey, we don't stop with retention. We go in lead generation, we go in operations, we go in upsells, we go in different revenues. I'm wondering where did that idea came from? Like, how did you
I mean,
implement it?
a lot of this is being in the field, right?
Mm,
Like, becoming somewhat of a master in this space after 15 years of getting reps in and repetition, right? And then bringing in people that are smarter than us. I've had
mhm,
many coaches, many people that have helped. A guy, Pat Rigsby. I don't know if you know of Pat Rigsby. He's one of the first business mentors that I utilized. He taught me about marketing and emails and newsletters. I've hired someone else named Taki Moore, who helped me design programs, and then Gym Launch with Hormozy and Kale Owen. I've always tried to find people who are doing what I want to be doing, right? And knowing what got me here won't get me there. That to me is really the important piece. Nick, I only have these skills to get to a certain level right now. And at some point, I need to recognize that and go, okay, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, that's a problem. How do I got to get
mhm,
myself into a new room where I don't know
mhm,
anything? And
mhm,
but the one thing I want to go back to real quick is once you know those buckets, right? And once you know your numbers within each one, that's how you start to make decisions as an owner. So, for example, right now we're having a challenge with lead nurture, meaning if we get 1,000 leads per month, ideally we get 500 to schedule and we get about 200 to show up, right? So right now we're getting about 300 to schedule and maybe about 100 to show up. So, where I'm seeing the broken link in the chain is in terms of getting people scheduled and getting them to show up. So now I know where to put my time and energy in the business. I know where the constraint is, and then every day that's what I personally should be working on to fix. And once it's fixed, then I can get out and do something else. So right now the link that's broken is getting clients to show up to their appointment so that we can then sell them. And
mhm,
that is affecting all the things downriver of getting more net clients, getting more front end revenue, and the ability to grow the business. So, all of these future plans that I talked about, currently, the bottleneck is getting people to show up for sales
mhm,
consultations. And now that I know that, it's from
mhm,
having data. Now that I know that, now I know where to stay until this is fixed. And I probably should not leave that until it's fixed, or else I'm just wasting my time on training and retention because that stuff right now is working well. So I hope that makes sense of how
mhm.
to tie it all together of knowing your buckets, knowing your KPIs and data in each one. And then from there, that's how you make an educated, informed decision on how to move your business forward. And
Whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, love that.
yeah.
Well, love that. And you literally answered my next question is like, what do you measure and how often do you measure data? Is it once a quarter, once a month? Once a week, once a day? Like how do
Every
you?
every day,
Mm,
every single day, every single day. Understanding how many consults we had, how many showed up, how many did we
mhm.
sell, what was our front end revenue, how many new members did we sign up, how many people left. Those are things I track every day. And then at the end of the week, I round those up into, okay, what was our schedule rate, our show rate, our close rate for the week? And then at the end of the month and quarter, a review on, okay, how are we performing? So now I know Q2 had a big dip in terms of sales consult shows. That's how I now know where the bottleneck is. So all of that data I'm collecting daily. It sounds like a lot, but once you develop a system, it's actually pretty simple. It's just simple addition and subtraction. It's nothing, there's no calculus involved.
Listen, if there's one thing you learn is how quickly you measure it, because now you get daily
Yep.
points. And if you're listening this on Spotify, YouTube, name it, just comment it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is your cadence of measuring? How often do you measure? I know public companies doing it 3 times a day
Mm-hmm.
because they want to have a morning, midday, and afternoon. Like, what's going on? They share the data with everybody, make it public. Like, everybody's part of this, guys.
Yeah.
And if you measure it once a month, you have 12 times to iterate. If you measure it once a day, you have like 250 times to iterate,
Mm-hmm.
excluding weekends, if you don't measure it over the
Right.
weekend. So it's such an important part to, and everything we are talking here for you is the standard operating procedures now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing it, now it's better time to start. One thing I would add to your measurement as well, that's going to tremendously increase your show up rate,
Mm.
is response time on the leads. And a lot of times happens that when the lead is generated, people have some gap between, and automation sends a text message and people recognize it's automation, but human or human-like conversation, touching, and study shows that if you connect with them 3 hours from the moment they express interest, it's 5% conversion. If you connect an hour, it's like 20%. But if you connect in first 60 to 180 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
like 80% difference.
Wow.
And not looking from your perspective, but looking now, I'm a customer and I'm a woman in the 40s, and I just had a big lunch. And we had a conversation with the people about fitness and losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to my computer and I went on Facebook, and your ad shows up because Facebook is listening.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need this. Click. And it's like 3 clicks, guys, to submit a lead. They don't need to type anything. Facebook provides data. It just pushes in.
Yep.
She left the phone out. And guess what? Tomorrow you're calling them. She's like, oh,
Who is this?
well, I'm out. But if you call them in 60 seconds, and there's ways to do that without having to be on the computer, assistant can call you and call them, and it's called Quick Connect and other things. You can be in a conversation with them at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if she answers the call an hour later, she's interrupted. She's in the meeting with the boss. She doesn't want to talk about weight loss. It's not a right time. The right time is that time. And so if you start measuring what's your response time, you will see such a significant change by shortening response time. That
Mm-hmm.
means choosing ads where to run. If you cannot answer the ads in 2 o'clock in the morning, would you need to run them? Right? Or having some process that's going to outreach. There's AI tools now. We are developing one as well, launching in fourth quarter about back and forth consulting approach, communicate what you want to approach, what do you want to try to gain.
Mm-hmm.
Shy yes. So that is one of the things that just by measuring it, you'll get so much ideas about how to change it.
Speed to lead. That's what we call it. Speed to lead.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And what's so important there, and what I mentioned a while ago, I think it's a really good way to tie in, is that what can be really challenging in the fitness space is you're dealing with people's emotions, right? I had a guy sign up yesterday who was ready to change his life, signed up for a $1,500 program, goes home 2 hours later. He says, hey, Nick, I thought about it. I want a refund. And I'm like, I don't understand. Who I just talked to was so ready to change his life. Person emailing me isn't. So my point there is you're dealing with people's emotions. And Andre, your point is you got to catch them in that split second of the day when they're ready to change their life. And if you're there, that's when you can be the one to facilitate that change and growth. If you're not there, they're going to go find someone else, or they're going to forget about it. And so you got to always be ready. And also, if someone says no, it doesn't mean no forever. It could be no right now. I've had people reach out to me 5 years later after I've met them and said, today's the day I'm ready. It's like, great. And then they become great clients. So don't take it personal when someone says no. It could just mean not right now, and keep that relationship open so that next time they do think about it, Who do they think about? They go, man, I remember Andre. He was great. Why wouldn't I call him? That is really important. And you're not going to know the ROI on those conversations. That's building your reputation and having like some invisible wind underneath your wings that will help propel you forward. And keep that in mind as you grow.
What I like what you're saying, Nick, is everything is opportunity. And it's a lot of people say take no as an answer. Sometimes it says used to take 5 follow-ups to get a sales. Now it's like 12 to 18 because there's so much more being out. And we got to be consistently innovate. And you can't innovate until you measure it. You don't know what works. Cool. Listen, this is abundance of good tips.
Yeah, thank you.
Nick, I want to wrap up. Leaders are learners. I want to ask you a question. Like, where do you learn? What's the podcast influencer, coach person you get ideas from?
I love Hermosi for gym knowledge. 100%.
Gym knowledge. That's love that. Is there anything, other podcast that you're listening or a book that you would recommend to the gym owners?
Yeah. In terms of book, right here.
No way.
Traction.
Whoa. Are you kidding me? Whoa. I think we just opened another conversation for another podcast, my friend. Damn. Wow.
Right on my desk. Yeah.
That's a series of EOS knowledge.
I think a lot of what we've talked about today is from Traction. Whether I've read it in there or I've learned it from other people. Yep.
Guys, operations is how you scale it. Creativity, energy, drive, passion is how you start it, how you take it to a certain level, but definitely that's not going to take you to the level of future 10 plus multiple locations. Operation is. Traction is the book where everything's laid out, spelled out. It's called Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. Whoa, awesome. Yeah, cool. And then last one, you mentioned GymCon and other things as a conferences. Where do you go to network, meet people, get the knowledge? Is there any other places where it's really good to attend?
Yeah, GymCon is great. I've learned a ton from them. IdeaFit, I went 2 years ago. I told you that. I learned one thing from IdeaFit 10 years ago that changed my entire business. So I would get around people that are doing what you want to be doing. Also, I love this thing of whatever you're into. If you're into fitness, if you're into yoga, if you're into coaching, go to places where those people are hanging out. Don't go, nothing wrong going to the bar, but if you want to learn about fitness, go to a gym. If you want to learn about yoga, go to a yoga studio. If you want to learn about coaching, go to a seminar. So that's, if you want to have a good time, go to the bar. But get yourself around the people and the places and the things that you're interested in that want to grow you. And then I would just say last thing, it's like, again, whatever got you here won't get you there. When you start to realize you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to get out of that room, and it's time to get into a new room where you don't know anything.
And look for the rooms where more people than you are.
Yep.
You will be amazed. Sometimes you'll feel like small. Sometimes you'll feel like, oh, do I belong there? But if you get that feeling, do I belong there? That's exactly you should have.
The secret is they want you in there. Yes. That's the secret. The same way you and I have mentored people is the same way you and I have found mentors, because good leaders and mentors want to help other people grow. They don't see the world as scarce. They see it as abundant, and there's more than enough to go around for everyone. I think that's what you really find when you get around bigger players.
Guys, this is absolutely remarkable. Oh my God, we can talk for another 2 hours and make this as a season of Nick. I gotta say, true appreciation for you coming to us today. You're a gift, my friend. Gift to the community, gift to your members, gift to the world of fitness owners. Today, what you shared, I think it's gonna impact so many people and change directions. Like, oh my God, this ride in my car, listening to Nick on a Spotify or watching this is absolutely, that's what I call a 2mm chef that changed miles destination of 10 years from now. So Nick, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for everything you shared today, and for me personally and for the audience that's listening.
Hey, thanks for bringing it out. I didn't know I knew that much about business until you actually brought it out of me. So thanks for having that combination together to pull it out of each other.
Being humble again. Thank you guys for listening again. This is another awesome episode of Top Rated Gym. Stay tuned. Bye, everybody. Wow, what an episode, right? Thank you guys for tuning in into this Top Rated Gym podcast. We hope you found valuable insights and practical tips to help you tackle the challenges of gym ownership. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. We want to reach the community. With your help, we can be the biggest contributor, biggest resources for you and other gym owners. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, YouTube. If you have any questions, feedback, or topics you would like us to cover, or people you would like us to interview, or if you want to be interviewed on the podcast, reach out at topratedgym.com. Stay tuned, stay motivated, keep pushing your gym to the top. Until next time, this is Andre signing off. Bye.